the gap, standing for Jesus, standing in the gap for family and friends, standing in the gap, one love for all, so we all can make it in.
We dedicated a portion of our ministry, our broadcast, to what we call the Gap News. And that's because of the Jesus gave us the Great Commission, and that's to spread this gospel in the world. And in order to spread it, we have to understand what's going on in the world. A lot of people are ignorant what's actually going on out there, so we strive to give you the information that you need in order to spread the word, to spread the gospel. And it's on current events. There's so much out there that we can focus on. Marvel's in charge of that. She always picks the right issues that we need to get into and to bring you up to date on. So I turn this portion over to Marvel and the Gap News.
I always say this. There is so much going on in the world. I've got so many topics that I could cover in the Gap News. But today I wanted to focus on what's been going on with immigration, the ICE, and the Homeland Security, I forget, HSI, and the what's that? The old law that they're using, the
The
Alien Enemies Act.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm calling this one, "You're not from here either."
Are you here legally or illegally? Don't talk to him.
Yet another encounter between Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the public. This video taken Tuesday morning in downtown Waltham, showing ICE agents forcefully arresting two men in a van after seemingly ignoring their orders.
My first feeling was fear, and then it was anger when I saw how they took him out.
Mileni Herrera recorded the video. She recently took a course on how to document these encounters and help inform people of their rights.
I was just letting him know that he has a right to remain silent and not answer any questions that he doesn't want to.
It's unclear what charges either of the two men face or the reasons for being detained. A very public arrest of a woman in Worcester by ICE last week sparked outrage in advocates who had been trying to better coordinate a community response to these actions.
There is a concerted effort for people to not only know their rights, but to know how to identify threats in their community.
You see your wife, you see your kids, you're separating families. This is hard-working people. They're not criminals.
The frustration among those in the community reaching a boiling point where these actions are turning into clashes.
It's so upsetting, and it's evoking a lot of fear and anxiety in all of us. We can't even live our own lives, working, providing for our families, without being in so much, honestly, terror.
ICE agents और होमलैंड सिक्योरिटी ये लोग पहुंच गए भाई रेस्टोरेंट में रेड मारने के लिए. ये क्या चल रहा है?
News 4's Walter Morris spoke with the owner of one of those restaurants.
It's really crazy. You know, it kind of feels like we're not in the U.S. That's just was shocking to everybody today.
Shock, sadness, and fear. One day after a warning from local advocates, surveillance videos showing the moments federal agents popped up at a popular D.C. restaurant, Millie's on Mass Ave, immigration enforcement operation.
And so this is our main entrance. A few came in through here.
Owner Bo Blair walking us through how it all went down. Security cameras rolling as the agents came in Tuesday morning.
It seemed pretty unnecessary. And that scared people. Is this just a scare tactic? Like, I don't really see the purpose in it.
और क्या बोल रही है?
Blair says they identified themselves as ICE and Homeland Security. In the video, you can see the manager speaking with them as they asked to speak with employees and review I-9 forms to verify eligibility to work.
That inflation, you know, it just keeps going and going. The restaurant industry is not easy.
And Blair says two employees were so shaken up they had to leave for the day.
World's largest retirement community. So we joined ICE agents as they arrived unannounced to housing construction sites.
We're talking to everybody out here. Are you a citizen in the U.S.?
Now, agents moved from house to house approaching workers. ICE described the interaction as a consensual and optional conversation since they did not have a warrant. Agents questioned their legal status, and those who couldn't provide valid immigration documents were fingerprinted on site. This is part of a process to verify identities through a national immigration database.
The Trump administration says they may arrest 3 Democratic lawmakers after a chaotic scene outside an ICE detention center in New Jersey that already led to the arrest of Newark's mayor. Those lawmakers are under threat of arrest. They are here with me now. You see them, Democratic Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver, and Congressman Rob Menendez. Thanks to all 3 of you for being here. I'm going to start with you, Congresswoman Watson-Coleman. The Department of Homeland Security's spokeswoman was on CNN and said that potential charges for all 3 of you are, quote, on the table. Have you heard from anyone at DHS that you might be charged or arrested?
We've not heard anything. We've only read what everyone else has read. We have no idea why they would even suggest that, because we didn't do anything. So, nope, we have no idea what they have in mind other than to create an environment of intimidation just by claiming that perhaps we might be subject to arrest. But there's no reason for it. Nothing happened other than the chaos that they created themselves. If anything, we were pushed and shoved and found in a very vulnerable situation for the 3 of us. We went there to do a legal oversight visit that we're allowed to do, permitted to do under the law. And ICE delayed us, tried to dissuade us, disregarded us. We were there an hour and a half before the mayor came, and we went out there to see what was happening. When the mayor was there, then the mayor was asked to leave the space. He left the space willingly, and the next thing we know, ICE is going to arrest him. And they arrested him for trespassing on public property, which is absurd.
Congresswoman McIver, I want to go back to some of the footage. We were looking at some, and I want our viewers to see that you are the woman in the red blazer as we show them. The DHS says that, obviously, that there were chaos, that maybe you were trespassing. You can talk about that. But the DHS also says that, in their words, you were body slamming an ICE officer. Is that what we're looking at? Is that what happened?
Absolutely no. I mean, I honestly do not know how to body slam anyone. There's no video that supports me body slamming anyone. We, as Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman said, we were simply there to do our job. Therefore, oversight visit, and what you're watching in a video, and we don't have all of the body cam, and we hope that all of the body cam is released. It was a very tense situation. It unfortunately did not have to be like that. They created that confrontation, they created that chaos, and then ultimately went to arrest the mayor of the largest city of New Jersey, who is my mayor and my constituent. And it was very difficult to watch that happen. But absolutely, I did not body slam anyone.
Congressman Menendez, as we saw there was a lot of shoving, a lot of shouting going on. It got physical. How did this situation escalate in the first place? And is there anything about what happened, looking back and looking at that video, that you might regret about how it played out?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think there was a lot of opportunities for DHS, for ICE to de-escalate the situation. They chose not to. There's 3 House members there, the mayor of the largest city. And as you can see in all of the video, and this is important, they had over 20 armed ICE HSI officers. They were heavily armed. Their faces were covered, and they were wearing no identification. So this is who they chose to have come engage with the mayor of Newark and 3 elected members of the House of Representatives.
Cartel family members entered U.S. in a deal with the Trump administration.
Well, Donald Trump and our Republican friends love to talk about border security, how they're tough on border security, more than just about anything else. So you can imagine our surprise to read that President Trump is making deals with drug cartels, El Chapo, to be precise, to come into our country. Amazing. This week, it's hard to believe, you can't make this stuff up. Reports came out that Donald Trump made a deal to allow 17 relatives of El Chapo, that's right, El Chapo, a dangerous, murderous, notorious drug lord in U.S. custody, into the United States. El Chapo was head of the notorious Sinaloa cartel, which was designated a terrorist organization back in February. And now letting their relatives in? Republicans want to talk about importing criminals? Where is the outrage on Donald Trump letting the family of the world's most dangerous cartel enter the United States?
Afrikaners are the white South Africans who ruled the country during apartheid. This comes as the Trump administration has suspended refugee resettlement for almost everyone else in the world. Speaking Monday, Trump claimed white South Africans face racial discrimination, even though the country's white minority still owns the vast majority of farmland decades after the end of apartheid rule. Trump said he's allowing them to come to the United States to escape, quote, genocide.
It's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me, but white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa.
On Monday, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa refuted Trump's claims that white people are being persecuted in his country, calling it, quote, a completely false narrative. On Tuesday, Ramaphosa recounted a conversation he'd had with Trump about the situation in his country.
I had a conversation with President Trump on the phone, and he said, what's happening down there? And I said, President, what you've been told by those people who are opposed to transformation back home in South Africa is not true. And I added to him, I said, we were well taught by Nelson Mandela and other iconic leaders like Oliver Tambo on how to continue to build a united nation out of the diverse groupings that we have in South Africa. We're the only country on the continent where the colonizers came to stay, and we have never driven them out of our country. So they are staying, and they're making great progress. It's a fringe grouping that does not have a lot of support, that is anti-transformation and anti-change, that would actually prefer to see South Africa going back to apartheid type of policies.
This comes as South African-born Trump advisor and multi-billionaire Elon Musk has also accused South Africa's government of promoting what he calls white genocide. Musk's grandfather moved his family to South Africa after embracing the country's apartheid system.
Herman Wasserman is with us, professor of journalism, director of the Center for Information Integrity in Africa at Stellenbosch University. His new piece for the website Africa is a Country is headlined Trump's Fake Refugees. Wasserman himself is a white South African, an Afrikaner. And Andile Zulu is a political analyst with the Alternative Information and Development Center. His new piece for the website, Africa is a Country, is titled Race, Power, and the Politics of Distraction. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Herman Wasserman, let's begin with you. You are a white South African and you are an Afrikaner. If you can explain, first of all, to the world what exactly that means and what you thought when you heard President Trump charge white genocide in South Africa.
Well, I would say that my first response was one of incredulity, and later met with, I think with disgust even, and just rejection of this notion of a white genocide or whites being persecuted. And I think that view is shared by many others, white South Africans, and certainly the majority of South Africans in the country.
Well, Andile Zulu, if you could also respond to these claims of a white genocide in South Africa and Trump bringing over these 59 Afrikaners to the U.S., and talk about this in the context of this the new law that replaces the 1975 Expropriation Act in South Africa, and explain why that's been so controversial and what it entails.
Well, this accusation of white genocide emanating from the White House is a conspiracy theory and a myth that has been floating around echo chambers of right-wing populists and white nationalists for many decades now, particularly within the online space. And it essentially holds the accusation that white South Africans, in particular Afrikaans South Africans, are victims of deliberate, direct, state-sanctioned violence. And anyone who lives in this country, who's awake to the reality of this country, the inequality, the poverty, the unemployment that most Black South Africans have to endure, and including Indian and colored South Africans as well, knows that it's patently untrue. And the truth, however, is irrelevant to those who are perpetuating this myth. What matters is that it's a means through which you can mobilize anxiety, mobilize fear, and mobilize frustration from a segment, I think a relatively small segment of the population that is dissatisfied with the post-apartheid democracy and the loss of their political elevated status.
Welcome to the United States of America.
On Monday, members of the Trump administration welcomed 49 Afrikaners to the U.S.
We're sending a clear message that the United States really rejects the egregious persecution of people on the basis of race in South Africa.
This also saddens us to see that other refugees who are being denied entrance to the United States are people, brave people who've worked alongside of our military. As the Trump administration launches this new South African refugee program, it's announced the end of protected status for thousands of Afghans in the U.S., saying the conditions in Afghanistan have improved enough for them to return home.
So let me get this straight. ICE and HSI can come in like masked bandits, no identification, bust in your car window, grab you and throw you down on the street and pin you down, just come up to you and start taking your fingerprints. They can rough you up, even if you're a congressperson or the mayor of the city where they are. They can do all of that to people that are brown and black. But then if you're a white Afrikaner, they roll out the red carpet for you. If you're an Afghan who fought shoulder to shoulder with us and was granted immunity or whatever it is to be able to stay here safely in the United States, they'll say, sorry, we changed our minds. We're going to send you back over there so they can murder you and persecute you. So tell me, honey, what's wrong with this picture?
Well, what's wrong with this picture is Micah 6:8. No justice, no mercy. And you have power, but you don't walk humbly with God. I have a couple comments.
Okay.
One is that the power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So Trump has certain power, which he is delegated to these ICE agents and HSI agents and all that to carry it out. And so, you know, you're at the point in time where they have power and it's being used corruptly. And so, and the other thing is, well, another issue is, if you ever wonder why God lists liars at the top of the list of those who will not enter into the kingdom, it's because of the power of lies. And Trump uses that and to perfection almost, the lies. And it has caused, you know, people to believe stuff they would not normally believe about what's going on over in South Africa. South Africa has a big problem because of the Afrikaners and what they had done demonically over in South Africa for years. They have all the land and the money and all that, and there has to be a redistribution of wealth. And so they're trying to do that, because otherwise the Africans would never have any wealth at all. And so it has to be redistributed. They don't want to give up, meaning Afrikaners don't want to give up what they have. Same problem that we have over here.
What they
to a certain
stole.
extent.
What they stole.
Well, they stole it over here too.
I know, but I'm just saying.
All I'm saying
They
is
stole
they
it.
have the power right now. It has to be redistributed. And so they're resisting that. It's going to happen because you're not going to let 1% of the population over there control everything. And so when it comes time to say that we're being harassed and treated unfairly and all that, it doesn't come down to anything but money and wealth and power.
And
They want to
greed.
keep it, and they can't keep it. So they're yelling genocide, and you look at the fact, there's nobody being killed for it and all that. Their bank accounts may be getting killed, but their property, all that, they've got to redistribute it. And if they come to a conclusion that we need to compromise on this, and there won't be a problem. If they want to stand up and say we're just not going to give it back, that's going to be a problem.
The South African president brought up a really good point too. Many of the African nations, when they revolted against the colonists, what did they do? They killed every man, woman, and child. They killed them. But they've been coexisting with the Afrikaners who invaded their land and stole their land and did everything that they did. And then they didn't enslave them. Apartheid wasn't slavery, but it was like one step removed. So all the black people who were way in the majority were beat down and kept down until they were able to, Nelson Mandela really brought, and their whole movement brought an end to apartheid. And the whole world. Don't forget, the whole world was in on that too. But you're right. They have to have that wealth redistributed. But when I was watching that guy say, well, they're having genocide, it's white genocide over in South Africa, it reminded me of they're eating the cats and dogs. He'll say any old thing, and then he'll say it like it's true, and he'll keep on saying it and keep on saying it. And then some people who are unaware, they start to believe that what he's saying is the truth. It's not the truth.
All right. Now, one thing I want you to keep your mind on, too, is something that is going on now. It's called Africa Rising. And there's one guy over there in Burkina Faso, Toure, Captain Toure, who basically kicked the French out. And now the French, of course, in the West, doesn't have access to the gold and the diamonds and all that kind of thing. He's keeping it there. And, it's kind of turning the situation on its head because he's now getting help from Russia and all that against those. And he may be making a mistake there and to exchange one colonizer for another.
That's right.
But the West has nobody to blame for that but themselves by the way they've treated them. Africa wants to take back what they have. They have a total right to do that. And if you don't like it, too bad.
Go home.
Too bad. That's Gap News, and give you an idea how to spread the word throughout.
Yeah, I was trying to see if anybody had any comments. I didn't get any comments. But so one other thing I just want to bring up. He always talks about they're bringing the criminals, they're bringing the drug dealers. Who's doing that? The Trump administration. The Republicans are doing that. They're bringing in one of the most horrific drug dealers that was in charge of that cartel, bringing us, come on in, y'all, come on in. They're welcoming them while they're basically terrorizing everybody else.
Yeah, I'm gonna see how we'll see how Trump and all those people up there justify that when they're at the pearly gates being asked those questions about how. Well, explain this to me,
Yeah.
and they ain't got no explain. Okay. Gap News, way to go, Marvel. That was good. Maybe at some point in time, we'll show you this guy Toure too.